Chapter 1: The clock chimed. Outside the window, bursts of fireworks lit up the night sky in a dazzling display. I looked at the table of food, reheated for what felt like the 10th time, and shook my head. Valentine's Day had arrived, and our wedding anniversary was over. "Happy anniversary," I said with a smile, raising my glass to the empty seat across from me. An hour later, he returned. "Elener," he called my name the moment he walked in. I wanted to get Ethan Smith his slippers, but the wine I'd drunk left me powerless. I had just stood up and taken 2 steps before I collapsed back onto the sofa. After a rustling sound from the entryway, Ethan emerged. Seeing my delayed appearance, he said with annoyance, "I just called you. Why didn't you answer? Is this how you take care of me?" "I'm sorry, I had a little wine. I didn't react in time," I whispered, lowering my head in apology. Ethan ignored me and continued into the room. When he saw the cold dishes on the table, his face fell. "Elener, how much did you drink? You can't even be bothered to clear the table after eating." He turned to look at me. "Are you getting tired of serving me? If you are, it's not like this family can't afford to hire a maid." I staggered toward him, my hand gently resting on his shoulder. "Ethan, you've misunderstood me," I slurred. "I'm not tired of it, I just can't take care of you anymore." His eyes held a mocking glint as he swatted my hand away. "Why can't you? Who's stopping you? You're just tired of it." He used so much force that I nearly fell, but thankfully, a cabinet behind me broke my fall. A sharp pain shot through my waist, sobering me up considerably. I looked up at him. "Today is our wedding anniversary." Hearing this, Ethan's expression shifted. He glanced at the food on the table, his body trembling for a moment before he immediately composed himself and nodded. "I know you forgot to get me a gift again." I smiled, trying to be understanding. "It's all right. The man doesn't always have to be the one giving gifts on an anniversary. It's the same if I give you one." With that, I walked over to the coffee table and pulled a document from the drawer beneath it. "Take a look at this gift. Do you like it?" He looked at the papers in my hand, his gaze freezing on the words "divorce papers." Then he frowned, a cold sneer on his face. "What kind of trick are you playing now? Save it, I will never love you." I laughed at his words, not feeling angry at all. I pushed the divorce papers into his hands and said earnestly, "Our families arranged this marriage, and I've tied you to my side for so many years. It's been hard on you. Haven't you always wanted to find your childhood sweetheart, Ivy? I won't stop you anymore." While he was stunned, I took the opportunity to embrace him, burying my head in his chest like a demure wife. I only enjoyed a moment of peace and warmth before he pushed me away. I nearly tumbled onto the sofa. Shaking my head, I said with a complex look in my eyes, "I never thought our marriage would end up like this. It seems we were only destined to walk a part of the road together, not the entire journey." Ethan's face was icy. "If you had understood that from the beginning, we wouldn't have had to torture each other until now." "I've wronged you," I said, my eyes cast downward. "I can't offer you much compensation, so let me give you my life in return." Ethan's face grew even colder. "Give me your life? What kind of joke is that?" I stared at him, my eyes serious, my voice heavy. "After I die, I won't love you again in the next life." "Fine, then go die," Ethan said, unwilling to waste any more time on me. He turned and left without a hint of hesitation. Once again, we parted on bad terms. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Any hope I had cherished in my heart was gone. In this twisted marriage, with this man who had no feelings for me, what was there to hope for? With that final knot in my heart untied, I leaned back on the sofa, opened my phone, and pulled up the digital medical report one more time. Words like "malignant tumor" stabbed at my nerves. I once thought marrying Ethan Smith was just the first step. I never imagined my end would be this miserable. Not only had I failed, but I was about to lose everything. I held down the forward button, then hit cancel. Gritting my teeth, I made a decision. I deleted the medical report, letting it vanish into the digital world, just as I was about to disappear myself. Chapter 2. Afterward, I looked at the wedding ring on my finger, stroking it gently, savoring the memories and treasuring it one last time. Finally, I slipped it off and placed it on the table. The next day, as soon as Ethan left, I called a moving company to pack up all my belongings in the house, instructing them to deliver everything to a specified address. Then, I got into my car and drove all the way to Swansong Lake on the outskirts of the city. Standing by the shore, facing the crisp morning breeze, The shimmering water reflected the image of my dress swaying and my hair flying in the wind. Goodbye, world. Goodbye forever, Ethan Smith. I slowly walked into the water, closed my eyes, and let the lake swallow me whole. The feeling of suffocation spread through my body. I struggled violently, thrashing my limbs, but this was only a physiological regret. My heart remained cold. I died, but for some reason, I couldn't find the path to the underworld. Even more difficult to accept was that my soul was now bound to Ethan Smith, unable to leave his side. The Smith Group. After his parents' accidental death, Ethan had taken over the family company. I floated into his office and found his secretary reporting to him. He was yelling at her. Why isn't the bid for the West Side construction project ready yet? What kind of work is this? I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. I haven't been able to get any inside information on this project yet. The bidding is in 2 days, and you're telling me you still haven't figured it out. How could you make such a rookie mistake? Ethan gave his secretary, Megan Walsh, a final deadline of that morning, but she looked troubled. Without my help, where would she get that kind of inside information? If I wasn't mistaken, she had probably blown up my phone before even walking into his office. It wasn't that I deliberately didn't help her. She just hadn't told me in advance. With me around, she had grown too complacent. My gaze fell on Ethan, and I suddenly noticed that his wedding ring was gone. The faint red mark on his long, pale finger was proof of our broken marriage. Although our relationship was twisted, Ethan had always worn his wedding ring. According to him, he didn't want to be distracted at work by women with ulterior motives, and the ring helped reduce unnecessary trouble. Yes, he was divorced now. The ring had to go, but why did my heart ache so much? I was already dead, yet my emotions felt even stronger than when I was alive. Around noon, Megan Walsh waited outside the company as usual. For the 4 years of our marriage, I had brought Ethan lunch every single day. After waiting for 10 minutes without seeing me, she quickly ordered takeout for him. She delivered the food to his office. Ethan asked her, "How's the bid proposal coming along?" Megan lowered her head and mumbled, "I'm still organizing the materials." Ethan's expression turned cold. "This project is no longer worth pursuing," he said flatly. Megan left, visibly relieved. After finishing the work at hand, Ethan opened the takeout container. He took one bite and frowned. I guessed he must have noticed the food tasted different from usual. For some reason, he only had a few bites before pushing it aside. In the afternoon, a young woman in a chic business suit with a pure and lovely demeanor walked into the office. I looked up and saw it was Ethan's childhood friend and adopted sister, Ivy Thorne. Ethan didn't look as surprised or pleased to see Ivy as I had imagined. He just glanced at her before his eyes returned to the document on his desk. Ivy cozied up to him, acting cute, but when she realized he was ignoring her, she sat down in front of him and asked, "Brother Ethan, why are you ignoring me?" Ethan looked up at her. "It's working hours." I smiled. I never thought Ethan would be so principled. "I'm here for work, speak." Ivy was the deputy manager of the company's project department, so Ethan had no reason to refuse her. She pulled her chair closer to Ethan and said with a smile, "Brother Ethan, are you free this afternoon?" Chapter 3, what is it? Ivy lowered her head, fidgeting with her fingers. "You know I've always wanted to help share your burden." Ethan, unfazed, said, "Get to the point." "Well, a client has invited me to discuss a business deal with our company, and I was hoping you could come along for support." As if he had expected it, Ethan smiled faintly. "All right, I'll go with you this afternoon." Ivy was so excited, she threw her arms around Ethan's neck in an intimate and ambiguous gesture. Ethan gently pushed her away, reminding her that it was an office and she should be mindful of her conduct. But as he spoke, the corners of his mouth were clearly turned up in a slight smile. Watching from the air, I felt a sour taste in my mouth. Ethan never refused Ivy's requests and didn't shy away from physical contact with her. I used to argue with him about this all the time. He always told me he saw Ivy as a real sister, but their relationship had clearly crossed that line. After work, Ivy took Ethan to a dinner meeting. The host was a famous investor in A City, a Mr. Lawrence. Ethan had thought Ivy was meeting with a small-time business owner. He hadn't expected such a major player. Ethan asked her in a low voice, "How do you know Mr. Lawrence?" Ivy blinked. Of course, a junior deputy manager like me can't get in touch with Mr. Lawrence. But I'm your sister, Ethan Smith's sister. Who wouldn't give me some face? Instead of getting angry, Ethan's lips curved upward. Don't use my name to bluff your way around next time. Ivy pouted. This isn't bluffing. I'm trying to help you besides. If I weren't reliable, no one would believe me even if I used your name. Ethan looked at Ivy with admiration and gratification, a brilliant smile on his face, like a farmer admiring a tree he had cultivated for years. My little sister can finally help me carry some of the weight. They say Mr. Smith is cold and aloof, even neglecting his beautiful wife, Miss Vance, at home. He only dotes on his sister, Mr. Lawrence said with a hearty laugh. Ethan replied calmly, Mr. Lawrence, you've only heard half-truths. My wife prefers a quiet life and doesn't like to socialize, which is why you haven't heard much about us. But we have a very good relationship. She's a devoted wife and manages our home perfectly. Then, he glanced at Ivy and smiled. As for my sister, we've been through a lot together, so our bond is naturally deeper. Mr. Lawrence nodded and sighed. It was such a shame about your parents. But I'm sure they would be happy to see you take over and even surpass their achievements in just a few short years. After some pleasantries, they got down to business. Mr. Lawrence offered to invest $1 billion in the Smith Group, on the condition that the group's annual profit increase by 35% in the second half of the year, with 20% of the company's shares at stake in a VAM agreement. Given the Smith Group's previous growth rate, this deal was a sure win. Signing it would make the Smith Group the leading enterprise in its industry in a city. But without me, this contract was a huge trap. The Smith Group would never be able to meet the target. After hearing Mr. Lawrence's proposal, Ethan's expression was clearly excited, but he quickly suppressed it. I floated in the air, thinking to myself that he was still a cautious businessman. For the rest of the evening, everyone toasted and drank. Ethan acted like a perfect gentleman, shielding Ivy from drinks and helping her out of tricky situations. I watched from the side, feeling bitter. I remembered when we had just gotten married, we often attended these kinds of dinners. My alcohol tolerance was better than his, so I would always block drinks for him, drawing all the fire to myself. But when we got home, I received no thanks, only his cold warning. Elener, don't block drinks for me at dinners anymore. Don't you know how much face I lose? I'm a grown man who needs a woman to drink for him if it happens again. You can stop coming with me. I later learned that his pride was fragile and my actions might be counterproductive, so I never helped him openly again, always supporting him silently from the background. Chapter 4, the investors lavished praise on Ethan, calling him young and promising, lauding him for single-handedly reviving the dying Smith Group, and complimenting his many astounding business decisions. Ethan was no naive lamb. He knew it was all business flattery, exaggerated and sycophantic, but I knew that deep down, he believed it too. With me by his side all these years, his path had been too smooth. He had developed an arrogance, believing he could continue like this forever. Sure enough, in the end, he signed the VAM agreement with Mr. Lawrence. As Ethan lowered his head to sign, I saw Mr. Lawrence give Ivy a meaningful look, and several other investors eyed Ethan like a piece of prime meat. I wasn't surprised. I had known all along they were in it together. By the time the dinner ended, it was 8 o'clock, and the evening wind was bone-chillingly cold. Ivy and a slightly tipsy Ethan came out together. Ethan thoughtfully draped his jacket over Ivy's shoulders and asked with concern, "You drank so much, are you feeling unwell?" I rolled my eyes. Your precious sister just sold you out, and you're worried about her health. What made me even more upset was realizing that Ethan could be caring, he just wasn't caring toward me. Ivy didn't speak, just looked at Ethan with reddening eyes. Ethan looked at her, confused. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Maybe we should walk for a bit before getting in the car. Ivy finally spoke. Brother Ethan, would you say I helped you today? Ethan froze for a moment, then nodded. Ivy bit her lip. Brother, I'm finally capable of helping you. A complex emotion rippled through Ethan's deep eyes. He raised a well-defined hand to stroke her hair. Ivy, I've told you many times, I don't need your help with business. I just want you by my side, safe and happy. Ivy became emotional. I know, but I don't want to be a burden to you. A look of pain crossed Ethan's eyes as his large hand caressed her face. Silly girl, when have I ever thought of you as a burden? You'll always be the person closest to me." Ivy suddenly threw herself into Ethan's arms. "I used to think so too. But when Mom and Dad had their accident and the company was in turmoil and on the verge of bankruptcy, I saw how helpless you were, so busy and overwhelmed every day. And I, your sister, couldn't do anything to help. I even caused you so much trouble. That's when I knew I couldn't be like I was when we were kids anymore. I don't just want to be with you. I want to protect you. The reason I went abroad was to improve myself." Ethan seemed to recall the 4 years they had been apart, unable to see each other, and said with some guilt, "I've wronged you." Yes, now that I'm dead, let her protect you. Go on, make it up to her. It's not your fault. It was Elener and the Vance family who used their power to threaten us. We were too weak to resist. Ethan froze when he saw the hatred in Ivy's eyes. Ivy placed her hands on his chest, looking up at him, and said from the bottom of her heart, "Back then, I was powerless, and I let Elener have you for 5 years. But now I'm back, and I've returned with skills. I spent 5 years at the Yale School of Management, and you've seen my abilities since I returned. That woman can't control us anymore. You're the youngest and most successful CEO in a city, the Smith Group is thriving, and you have me to share your burden." Ivy's warm breath ghosted over his neck, her eyes filled with a determined love. Her delicate face had a tragic beauty to it. It was a look and gaze that no man could resist. What an actress, truly a masterclass. I couldn't help but applaud. She was so pitifully beautiful that if I didn't know what she was really like, I might have wanted to comfort her myself. Sure enough, Ethan's gaze faltered. His broad, strong hand gently stroked her back. At that moment, the ethical and moral constraints that had bound him for years were probably thrown to the winds. Ivy stood on her tiptoes, the jacket slipping to her feet, and slowly pressed her lips toward his. Chapter 5. In the next second, something unexpected happened. Ethan instinctively dodged Ivy's kiss and pushed her away. I was stunned. How could that be? What was Ethan thinking? Why would he react like that? Could it be that he remembered my rules for him? "Ethan Smith, after we're married, you are not to have intimate contact with any woman, especially your adopted sister. They're either after your money or your looks. Besides me, no one in this world truly loves you." I tugged at the corner of my mouth, thinking my own idea was absurd. How could Ethan possibly believe what I had said? After being rejected, Ivy was clearly embarrassed. She took a few steps back, fidgeting with her fingers shyly. "Brother Ethan, I forgot you're still married. After you and Elener are officially separated, we can consider—" She trailed off, but her intentions were clear. Ethan spoke up. "We're already divorced." As he said this, Ethan subconsciously glanced at his left hand. The wedding ring he had worn for 4 years was gone, but the red mark left from wearing it for so long was a shameful reminder of his time with me. Ivy exclaimed in shock, "What? You're divorced?" I saw a dark, inscrutable smile flicker across her lips. Ethan strode over to her, bent down gracefully to pick up the jacket, and draped it over her shoulders again. "It just happened today," he said softly. Ivy excitedly grabbed Ethan's arm. "That's wonderful. Brother Ethan, you finally don't have to endure that woman's torment anymore, then." She took his wrist. "This is great news. 4 years we have to celebrate," Ethan said nonchalantly. "My marriage with Elener was just a sham anyway, nothing more than a title. It's nothing to celebrate." Ivy shook her head vehemently. "We have to celebrate. We absolutely have to. I've waited 4 long years for this day, brother Ethan. You have to celebrate, even if it's just for me." Ethan didn't seem to want to, but she pulled him along. On the way, they sat in the back seat and saw many couples strolling down the street. Ivy's hand slowly crept toward Ethan's. Glancing out the window, she said shyly, "Brother Ethan, it's also Valentine's Day today." Ethan pulled his hand back, not falling for her ploy. Seeing this, Ivy took a different approach. "We're both single now. Let's celebrate our single status tonight." Ethan's attitude was somewhat cold. Ivy had already launched a fierce offensive against Ethan. I was curious to see how long he could hold out on his own. Stardust Lounge, one of a city's most high-end bars, a playground for the rich kids. As soon as the two entered, many wealthy heirs gathered around them, including several of Ethan's friends and Ivy's girlfriends. Everyone knew Ivy loved to party, but why was Ethan here? It was Valentine's Day. Why was Ethan at a place like this with his adopted sister instead of at home with his wife? Moreover, Ethan was a notorious workaholic. Since getting married, he had never been seen in a place like this. Ethan's face was slightly grim, as if he knew why everyone was staring at him. Ivy, seeing this, didn't explain. Instead, she put on a shy expression, letting the rumors spread. He has a beautiful wife at home. Why is he here having fun? Did he have a fight with Elener? It's Valentine's Day today, and I've heard Ethan has a serious sister complex. Chapter 6, Ivy let the rumors circulate for a while before announcing sweetly to everyone, "My brother is now single. Just like most of you here, it's Valentine's Day. So I wish all the single people a happy day and hope you all find someone soon." Her words were like a stone thrown into a calm lake. The noisy bar first fell silent, then erupted in a wave of gossip. A rich heir. What's going on? Isn't he married? Did Ethan Smith get divorced? Someone in the know? Elener let him go. She finally gave up. After all these years, it was about time, a gold digger. Does this mean we have a chance? The two didn't answer any questions and went into a private room. I saw Ethan's slightly lowered eyes and thought he must be feeling pretty pleased. After all, by tomorrow, the news of his single status would be all over a city. Soon, a group of Ivy's friends and some of Ethan's buddies came to liven things up. Ivy raised her glass, asking everyone to celebrate Ethan's newfound freedom. Ethan seemed to dislike these boring social events. The smile on his handsome, cold face was stiff. With the Smith group thriving, of course there were women who wanted to seize the opportunity to get close to him. A moderately famous female influencer kept batting her eyes at Ethan. Ivy seized the moment and grabbed Ethan's hand. "A bad woman has held my brother back for 10 years. I won't let him jump from one pit into another." Ethan froze. Ivy's gaze was meaningful, as if to say, "I'm helping you." Ethan stared at Ivy, his eyes dark and unreadable. No one knew what he was thinking. Then, Ivy intertwined her fingers with his, their hands clasped together. This act of claiming sovereignty made the female influencer extremely awkward. Several other gold diggers and young socialites who had a crush on Ethan could only watch and give up. The expressions on the remaining people's faces were priceless. Drink up," Ivy raised her glass. The atmosphere in the room became lively again. Ethan's eyes flickered, and he gently pulled his hand away from Ivy's. Looking at the somewhat dazed Ethan, I sneered inwardly, "You're just deceiving yourself. In life, why suppress your love?" Ethan's face grew darker and darker. He seemed to want to leave, but Ivy noticed and had a few of her friends pressure him into drinking. He had already been drinking at the business dinner and didn't have much tolerance left. After just a few glasses, he started to look drunk. A crimson blush spread across his delicate, fair cheeks, like a sunset, adding a touch of intoxicating allure. He glanced at his watch and muttered to himself, "It's 12 o'clock. I have to go home. Otherwise, that woman, Elener, is going to get angry again." I could hear some complaint in his voice and also a sense of helplessness. Coming home before midnight was a subconscious habit for Ethan. So even though we were divorced, I wasn't surprised to hear him say it. What did surprise me was, why was his mouth curved into a smile when he said it, as if he was looking forward to something? My heart went cold. I remembered he once told me that the rule about being home before midnight was sometimes a good excuse for him. Ivy grabbed Ethan's hand, placing it on her own fair, soft thigh. She leaned close to his ear and cooed as if talking to a child. "Brother Ethan, you and Elener are divorced. She can't control you anymore from now on. You can do whatever you want without her permission." Ethan wasn't seduced by Ivy's body or her words. Instead, his eyes widened. "Divorced." He rubbed his forehead and laughed. "Right, we're divorced." Seeing him so happy, my heart felt like it was being sliced piece by piece, the pain growing more intense. I had given so much for so many years, and I hadn't received even a speck of his love in return. Chapter 7. Just then, a sharp-witted heir handed him a glass of wine, smiling obsequiously. "Mr. Smith, congratulations on your divorce. Forget all the unpleasantness of the past." Ethan glanced at him, snatched the glass, and gulped it down, as if venting his inner frustrations. Ivy looked at the man she had called brother for over a decade, now almost completely passive, with a slim waist, long legs, and a seductive aura, and her eyes filled with greed and anticipation. She shot a resentful look at the heir who had just offered the drink. "Don't give my brother any more wine. If he gets completely drunk, it'll be hard for me to get him home. She refused anyone else who tried to give Ethan a drink. After saying goodbye to her friends, she helped Ethan up and led him out of the room with a gentle and considerate air. Above the Stardust Lounge was its affiliated high-end hotel of the same name. Ivy helped Ethan to a room she had booked in advance. "Brother Ethan, be careful." I felt an immense sense of humiliation and wanted to leave, but as soon as I drifted a short distance away, it was as if a rope pulled me back to Ethan's side. Damn it. Was I going to have to watch them break this taboo, to see the man I loved tear off his mask? Once inside the suite, Ivy helped Ethan onto the bed and then eagerly started unbuttoning his shirt. One by one, the buttons came undone. Ethan's firm chest was revealed, followed by his well-defined abs, a sight to stir the imagination. Ivy was practically drooling. She sat next to Ethan, pretending to casually brush against his arm, her eyes hazy and incredibly alluring. I scoffed inwardly. Is that all you've got? I'm already past that stage. I had once tried to make Ethan fall in love with my body first, then with me. But after countless efforts, all I ever got was him lying in bed, rolling his eyes at me, followed by his frantic release and humiliation. I suddenly gritted my teeth. It's true. The person who loves you doesn't care how you flirt before you get into bed. Ethan felt the strange sensation on his arm and stared at Ivy in a daze. Lust flickered in his misty eyes. He swallowed hard, and with a gentleness I had never received, pushed Ivy down onto the bed. Ivy's face showed the expression of someone whose wish had been granted. She looked at Ethan with shy eyes, as if it were all so real. But through the glint in her eyes, I could see just how thirsty and twisted her heart was. "Brother Ethan, take me. I don't want to be your sister anymore." As if suddenly jolted awake, Ethan sat up. I stared at him intently, but his dark, unreadable eyes gave no clue as to what he was thinking. "Brother Ethan, what's wrong?" Ivy asked, looking at him with concern. Ethan quickly buttoned his shirt. "Ivy, I'm sorry," he said coldly. "I was drunk and didn't recognize you. I'll get another room." He staggered to his feet. Unwilling to give up, Ivy got off the bed to chase him. "Brother, don't go." She wrapped her arms around his waist from behind, pressing her face against his back. "Ethan Smith, I won't let you leave. Do you have any idea how much I like you? I fell in love with you the first time we met. I don't want to be your sister anymore. I want to be your woman." Ethan stood there, lost in thought for a long time. Then he pried Ivy's hands off and slowly turned around. Ivy smiled at him and slowly closed her eyes. "Ethan Smith, you've waited so many years for your dear sister's heartfelt confession. What are you waiting for? Go on, don't let me look down on you." I thought he would kiss her right then and there. But to my surprise, he said in a cold, somewhat commanding tone, "We've both had too much to drink today. Let's talk about this tomorrow." With those words spoken, Ivy could hardly stop him any longer. Ethan stood up straight and walked out. The moment the door closed, he could no longer hold back the effects of the alcohol and stumbled, his eyes glazed over, unable to walk steadily. Just then, a bellboy passed by and helped him open a new room. Chapter 8. Why didn't Ethan just go through with it with Ivy in the room just now? The mood was perfectly set. Inside the room, Ivy's clear, watery eyes gradually turned bloodshot. She gritted her teeth. "He's already divorced, but he's still thinking about that woman." I was speechless. "It's your own failure, and you're blaming me." The next morning, as if nothing had happened the night before, Ivy went to knock on Ethan's door. Ethan was clearly keeping some distance from her, but didn't bring up what had happened. Ivy linked her arm with Ethan's as usual, but her face was beaming, like a victor. Her behavior drew frequent glances from the hotel staff and other guests in the hallway. Anyone with eyes could see her intention. I followed the two of them into the elevator and down to the first floor. In the lobby, I saw a familiar figure walking toward us. It was my best friend, the heiress of the Rosewood family in A City, Scarlet Rosewood. The Stardust was one of the most modest properties under her name. Seeing her aggressive posture, it was probably no coincidence. I hurried over, wanting to greet her and tell her not to interfere in my affairs. But my hand passed right through her body. A chill went through me as I remembered I was already dead. Scarlet was wearing a long red dress and high heels, like a blazing fire. A powerful aura radiated from her as she walked. She looked at the two of them with contempt. Well, have the two of you lovebirds finally gotten together? How many rounds did you go last night?" A flash of coldness crossed Ethan's eyes before his face paled, and he chose to remain silent. A mocking look appeared in Ivy's eyes. She looked at Ethan with a shy but firm expression. "Brother, don't be afraid. An innocent person has nothing to fear." Then she stood in front of Ethan, as if protecting her man, and retorted, "Scarlet Rosewood, my brother and I weren't even in the same room last night. We certainly didn't do what you're implying. If you don't believe me, you can go check." Scarlet sneered. "Oh, really? Then I'll do just that." I knew she was bluffing. Ethan's body trembled when he heard that, his eyes dimming. I wondered if he was afraid of his reputation being damaged. Ivy was completely unafraid. "Go ahead and check even if we did do something. What right do you have to meddle in our family's business? My brother is already divorced from Elener, and he owes her nothing." 4 years ago, it was Elener who used her family's power and influence to force my brother to marry her. She forced me to study abroad, forcing us to be separated. In the last 2 years, the Vance family has declined and has had to rely on my brother for support. Elener became a housewife, living off my brother, using my brother's money. Her entire family depended on my brother. For him to divorce her only now is already doing her a huge favor. Scarlet looked at Ethan as if he were a heartless cheater. "A housewife, living off you, using your money, is that what you think too?" Ethan didn't speak, his eyes dark and unreadable. The family expenses were indeed paid by him. It wasn't that I couldn't afford it. I was just trying to protect his male pride. As for my family, the Vances, they never took a single cent from him. Scarlet was so angry she wanted to scream. She looked up at the ceiling, laughed, then turned to Ethan and said sarcastically, "Elener, oh, Elener, you silly woman, is this how the man you've loved for so many years sees you? It's true what they say, a woman should never give up her career for a man." Ethan's face grew darker. Ivy looked at Scarlet coldly. "Shut up, what nonsense are you spouting? Were you there? How much do you know? What right do you have to judge my brother?" Scarlet laughed lightly. "I can't judge, I don't know, I have no right. So you're saying you were there? Oh, I forgot, you're the other woman. You know the most?" Ivy's face fell, but she cleverly retorted, "My brother and I met 10 years ago. If anyone's the other woman, it should be her. Besides, in these matters, the one who isn't loved is the third wheel." Scarlet laughed as if she had heard the funniest joke. "If you and Ethan Smith were truly in love, I'd agree with you. But I seem to recall that you were the one who was afraid of getting into trouble and cut ties with the Smith family to flee abroad, and I also heard you've had several boyfriends over the years." Ethan's eyes narrowed as he looked at Ivy in surprise. Chapter 9. Ivy froze, clearly not expecting Scarlet to know about the secrets of the past and her romantic exploits abroad. Of course, she couldn't deny it outright. Ethan wasn't a fool. She looked at Ethan with some apology in her eyes and said softly, "Brother, I did date a few jerks. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd worry about me. We can talk about this later." "Talk about it later? Weren't you just saying you had nothing to hide? Explain it now," Scarlet sneered. Ivy argued illogically, "Why should I explain just because you tell me to? If Elener hadn't interfered, why would I have ever left my brother?" Scarlet glanced at Ethan and sneered. Elener should be the one saying that. Ethan's face darkened at her words, and he seemed a little guilty, but he quickly straightened his back again. Seeing this, my heart grew cold. 4 years. You could develop feelings for a pet in that time. I had treated Ethan with nothing but meticulous care, and in return, I got his contempt. He saw me as nothing more than an insignificant housewife. It was true. A woman must always be financially independent in front of a man. Scarlet looked at Ethan playfully. "You never cherish what you get too easily. I hope you truly have no feelings for her. When you realize what you've lost, don't you dare regret it, don't you dare, because you don't deserve her." Seeing my best friend stand up for me, I felt both incredibly moved and ashamed. I remembered the scene in the hospital morgue. She was the first to arrive. Upon seeing my body, she collapsed to the floor, weeping and wailing, pouring out her heart's sorrow. She looked nothing like the heiress of a wealthy family, more like a pitiful wretch. I wanted so badly to tell her not to waste her time on this man. He didn't care about any of this. And not to waste her time on an unreliable friend like me. She should love herself instead. However, when Scarlet looked at the two of them, her eyes were filled with a chilling, murderous intent, her expression a mixture of grief and hatred. I guessed she hated me. hated me for being so love-struck, hated my terrible taste in men, and hated Ethan for being so heartless. Ethan finally met her gaze like a man. His voice was cold. "Don't you worry. I don't have a single shred of feeling for her." Scarlet burst out laughing, as if she had gotten a satisfying answer. Only I could hear the pity and pain in her heart. "You said it. Don't you regret it later? You have no idea what a wonderful woman you've missed out on." She threw down that harsh final word and left with her powerful aura. After a wild night, it was back to work. The private driver was already waiting outside the hotel early in the morning. On the way, Ivy tried to flirt with Ethan several times, but his attitude was exceptionally cold, and he deliberately kept his distance from her. Back at the company, Ivy went off to work on her projects, appearing very hardworking and diligent, not at all like someone who had partied all night. Ethan, on the other hand, had to drink a cup of extra strong coffee to shake off his fatigue. I didn't know if it was because he was in a bad mood or just genuinely tired. I noticed he was somewhat distracted at work. In just one morning, he had checked his personal phone 5 or 6 times. He seemed to be waiting for something. What could it be? Suddenly, a WhatsApp notification sounded. Ethan, who was in the middle of a document, quickly put down his pen and lit up his phone screen. When he saw it was a message from Ivy, I noticed the disappointment that flashed in his eyes. The message was about Ivy setting up another meeting with a client and wanting to discuss business with Ethan. Chapter 10, I thought Ethan would agree, but to my surprise, he refused directly this time. He replied, "I'm a bit tired today. You handle it. If you need, I can send someone to back you up." Ivy sent back a cute "okay" sticker. Just then, his secretary, Megan Walsh, came in to report on her work. Ethan asked nonchalantly, "Did Elener bother you at all today?" Of course not in the past. I had to go through her to get any news about Ethan, and I was always polite. Now she was probably going crazy trying to find me. After getting his answer, Ethan lowered his eyes, hiding his expression. Megan's brow furrowed slightly, as if she was thinking about something. I guessed Ethan hadn't actively mentioned me to Megan in a long time. Otherwise, she wouldn't have reacted that way. After the report, Ethan had an overseas video conference, but he was clearly distracted. At noon, Megan still hadn't seen me, so she ordered takeout for him again. When Ethan saw the takeout, his face fell. "Takeout again?" Megan was stumped. "Shouldn't I be asking you that?" Yes, the rumor of his divorce from me had probably already spread throughout the company. Megan hesitated for a moment before answering. "Mrs. Smith didn't come again today." Ethan froze for a second, then nodded with a smile. "Oh, that's good. I can finally eat something decent." The takeout a boss orders is different from what an employee gets. For a CEO like Ethan, it's always from a high-end restaurant, costing at least several $100s per meal. Ethan eagerly began to savor the delicious spread. But after Megan left, he only ate a few bites before putting the food aside. From his expression, it was clear he was annoyed. What was there to be annoyed about? He had told me many times before not to bring him lunch, that he was sick of my cooking. Why was he unhappy now that I wasn't bringing him food anymore? I guessed he had just gotten used to my cooking and wasn't accustomed to takeout. I suddenly thought of the saying, "You can't appreciate fine wine if you're used to cheap liquor." But he would probably get used to my absence soon enough. In the afternoon, after a busy day of work, Ethan drove home. The house was still well maintained, but where the lady of the house used to manage it, there was now a butler and 2 maids. It was quite a task for 3 people to manage a villa of over 10,000 square feet. When I was there, everything was taken care of meticulously. Ethan had once made a cold joke, criticizing my role as a housewife. He said our maids and butler would never want to quit, only be fired, because they would never find such an easy and stress-free job again. Sometimes they wouldn't even come for days. I guessed that after I left, the 2 maids probably hadn't adjusted yet, grumbling about me and likely cursing Ethan's mother as well. When the butler saw Ethan return, he smiled and said, "Sir, you're back. I'll go run a bath for you in the bathroom." That was usually my job. Ethan quickly realized something was wrong and asked, "Where is my wife?" The butler replied, "Mrs. Smith drove out yesterday morning and hasn't returned yet." Ethan's expression darkened slightly. "All right, call me when you're ready upstairs." I was puzzled. It had been 2 days. Hadn't he noticed I was gone? Ethan went upstairs and found that many things were missing from the house. All of my belongings were gone. My walk-in closet was empty, and the cosmetics that had filled my vanity were all gone. Only then did he realize that the woman who had clung to him for 4 years, who waited for him at home every year, who cared for him so tenderly, had left him. He looked around with an expression of disbelief, walking and thinking. From his face, I could guess he was probably wondering why I had suddenly left. Why had I gone without even saying goodbye? Ethan went to the living room and saw the wedding ring I had left on the coffee table. His deep, calm eyes, usually so hard to read, now churned with turbulent emotions. He picked up the ring. It shone dazzlingly under the light. His usually bright, deep eyes were now filled with a sense of bewilderment. I guessed that in that moment, he was probably thinking, she's finally gone. Wouldn't it have been better if we had just let each other go sooner? Chapter 11. The next day. Ethan went to the office as usual. Ivy found her way to Ethan's office again. Ethan was still somewhat distracted at work. When he saw Ivy, he just glanced at her, as if trying to avoid her, and went back to his work. "Brother, look at me. Are the documents prettier than me?" I locked the door when I came in. "Brother, I'm wearing a black, form-fitting skirt today. You can do whatever you want to me." Ivy acted coquettishly several times, with a few suggestive hints. Ever since that time Ethan had pushed her onto the bed, she had become much bolder, but she maintained a certain balance, sexy and cute without being vulgar. It could be taken as a joke between friends or a flirtation between lovers. It all depended on how Ethan interpreted it. Ripples of an unidentifiable emotion crossed Ethan's eyes several times, as if he finally couldn't take it anymore. "Stop messing around. What's the problem this time?" Ivy smiled, reaching out a fair, slender hand to touch Ethan's chest. "Brother, what are you saying? What kind of person do you take me for? Can't I just be here to see you?" "Don't be so familiar," Ethan said coolly, shifting back. "If you're not here for work, you can leave. I'm busy today." Ivy raised an eyebrow and chuckled. "It seems I can't hide anything from you, brother. Well, it's about the younger brother-in-law of the Chen Estate's CEO. He wants to get his hands on our company's new Olympian Commercial Plaza project. I was thinking of pulling some strings for him as a favor to CEO Chen." Ethan had always been against this kind of backdoor dealing. I thought he would refuse, but to my surprise, after some thought, he actually agreed. What did that mean? Did he feel guilty for not giving Ivy a proper status all these years and wanted to compensate her? Ivy planted a kiss on Ethan's cheek, leaving him stunned, and then happily turned to leave. Just as she walked out the door, Ethan received a call from my best friend, Scarlet Rosewood. Scarlet said reluctantly, "I didn't want you to bother Elener, but I have no choice. Elener's body needs to be cremated, and it requires your signature." Cremation requires a relative's signature. I wasn't without relatives, but my so-called relatives were no different from enemies. My 2 brothers and I had a bad relationship since childhood. After my pursuit of Ethan became a city-wide scandal, they thought I was shameless and promiscuous, especially for marrying down to Ethan, which they saw as a disgrace. On our wedding day, they even insulted Ethan, calling him spineless and a freeloader living off the Vance family. A large part of the reason I couldn't win Ethan's heart was because of them. After my father died of anger because of them, I cut off all contact. When the Vance family was in decline, I could have helped them with a wave of my hand, but I let it happen, only giving them a chance to barely survive. When they asked Ethan for money, I told them to get lost, restoring all the face Ethan had lost in the past. In short, after my death, there was no way they would sign for me. Hearing the news, Ethan was shocked, then sneered. "Elener's finally had enough. She's starting to play these kinds of games with me now. Is it fun?" "This isn't a game. It's a very real problem. After all, you were husband and wife. You'd better get over here quickly and let her find some peace." Scarlet didn't want to say more and hung up the phone. Ethan narrowed his eyes, a cat playing with a mouse smile on his face. "She's only been gone for 2 days, and she can't wait to come back. I'd like to see what kind of trick she's playing this time." Just then, Ivy returned, peeking through the door and said angrily, "Brother, are you going to see that woman again?" Chapter 12. Ethan nodded. "Brother, there's something wrong with that woman's character. You're already divorced, why is she still looking for you?" "That's none of your business." Ivy gritted her teeth. "I'm making it my business. I know you've always felt like you owe her. I can't change your mind, but I can help you repay her." As long as our hearts are connected, we can have anything and overcome any difficulty. This isn't about owing her or not. Never mind, this isn't your concern. Weren't you going to help me with my work? Go on, Ethan said coldly. A deep resentment flashed in Ivy's eyes, resentment toward me for ruining her plans, and resentment toward Ethan for being so unresponsive. Brother, be careful with that woman. Don't let her trick you again. She said it gently, pretending to be very understanding, and left the office looking particularly pitiable. Ethan sighed as he watched Ivy's retreating back, a guilty look in his eyes. Half an hour later, he drove to the police station. When he arrived at the designated place, his lips were curved in a smile, and his steps were casual and confident, as if he were waiting for a clown to perform. He thought this was another trick cooked up by me and Scarlet. After all, I had pulled plenty of similar stunts in the past 2 years, some of them quite outrageous. He looked around, trying to find where I was hiding. Was I hiding in the shadows, waiting to see his sad face so she could capture it, then run out with a triumphant look and shout that she loved him? I had been that foolish before, but this time, it was for real. Scarlet was sitting on a chair, her expression grief-stricken, with several female police officers comforting her. When Ethan saw this, he frowned and sneered, as if thinking the acting is quite convincing this time, even the police are in on it. When Scarlet saw Ethan approaching, she introduced him to the officer next to her with red eyes. This is Elener's husband. Let him sign. The officer looked Ethan up and down. You are the deceased's husband, Ethan said unhappily. Are you police officers also going along with their nonsense? At his words, the officers were all stunned, looking at him with a strange expression. One of the older officers showed a look of pity and told Ethan to offer his condolences. Ethan's mouth twitched, and he looked at the officer in disbelief. This way, we'll take you to identify the body. He followed them in a daze, not speaking to anyone the whole time, seemingly still in doubt. We arrived at the morgue inside the police station. The room had a very heavy, cold atmosphere. Even I, a ghost, could feel it. Ethan couldn't have missed it. His expression became even more solemn. Inside, I saw a body covered with a white sheet. I knew Ethan didn't have any feelings for me, but I still wanted to see his expression when he saw my body. If he showed even a little bit of sadness, I would be satisfied. At least it would prove he had some conscience, that my taste wasn't so bad as to love a heartless monster. The body has been here for 2 days and 2 nights. Fortunately, it was a drowning without trauma, so the body hasn't decomposed much. Otherwise, in this weather, you probably wouldn't be able to stand it. I couldn't smell anything, but I could tell from the officers' grim faces that the smell must be quite pungent. Chapter 13, Ethan covered his nose with a look of disgust. The old police officer said, I suggest you have the body cremated today. Ethan's pupils dilated. Body? I'm not sure what you mean. The officer was surprised, glanced at Scarlet, and explained, You don't know? Your wife fell into Swansong Lake 2 days ago and drowned. Ethan was utterly shocked, bewildered, and stood frozen in place. That's impossible, Ethan shouted. He clearly didn't believe the body under the white sheet was mine. His legs were long, but this time he walked very slowly, almost stumbling. Finally, he reached my bedside. He wanted to lift the white sheet, but he hesitated at the last moment. It was as if he was afraid the body was me. He closed his eyes and slowly lifted the sheet. My body was exposed. Due to being soaked in the lake, my skin was pale and slightly swollen, but my delicate, beautiful features and a figure that could drive any man wild were unmistakable. It was me. Ethan's eyes snapped open. When he saw my familiar form, he stood there stunned for a long time, unable to process it. Other than that, there was no reaction. My heart turned to ice. It seemed I had been fooling myself again. He really had no feelings for me at all. Why was he in a daze? Probably just the shock of seeing an acquaintance turned into a corpse. Ethan suddenly thought of something. Was it an accident or suicide? Scarlet sneered. How many accidents are there in this world? She had terminal pancreatic cancer. Because of you, her heart died too. Since she was going to die anyway, she chose the quicker way out. Ethan Smith, Elener loved you so much, did so much for you, and never wronged you. And yet you thought she was a burden, a disgrace. Did you know that she was also forced by her father to marry you? She never owed you anything to begin with. Our families, the Vances and the Smiths, were old friends, and there had been a verbal marriage agreement between us made by our elders. No one took it seriously, except my father. Not because he was sentimental or because he doted on me. My father valued Ethan's abilities. He felt my two brothers were good for nothings, and although I was capable, I would eventually marry out. His two sons would sooner or later squander the family fortune, so he wanted Ethan to be our family's live-in son-in-law to lead the Vance family in the future. The proud Ethan naturally refused. When he heard the news, he thought it was my idea to tie him to my side. I did want to marry Ethan back then, but I wanted to fulfill his wishes more, not to make him live a life of pain and humiliation. But my father threatened to suppress the Smith group, forcing me to marry him. Through my strenuous efforts, even causing a huge fight, I managed to prevent Ethan from becoming my family's live-in son-in-law. However, Ethan was not grateful. He thought it was all a charade put on by my father and me. I was caught in the middle, pleasing no one. From then on, both family and love were lost to me. I was already dead, and I wanted nothing from him anymore. I guessed Ethan might have, to some extent, believed my predicament back then. He stood there with a stiff face, his eyes full of complex emotions: surprise, frustration, relief, confusion, and more. The police, of course, didn't want to waste time on him and soon began to hurry him along. Ethan slowly signed the confirmation form. After signing, his eyes stared blankly at my body. An hour later, my body was sent to the crematorium. He watched with his own eyes as the roaring flames consumed my body. The firelight reflected on his chiseled jawline, his eyes hazy. The scene was captivating, giving off a sense of shattered love. Chapter 14. After the cremation, the funeral home staff placed my ashes in an urn. Just as Scarlet was about to take it, Ethan snatched it away. He held the urn tightly in his arms, his eyes calm. "I am her husband. I should handle her funeral arrangements." "You have no right." Scarlet reached out to grab it, but Ethan blocked her with his arms, not even giving her a chance to touch it. "I am her husband. She's dead. It's my duty to arrange her funeral," Ethan insisted firmly. Ethan took my urn home. We had been sleeping in separate rooms for a long time, but he brought the urn directly into his bedroom. He held the urn and stayed up all night. I had no idea what he was thinking. The next day, his eyes were bloodshot, and he looked extremely tired. He went to the bathroom to wash up. Before showering, he placed the urn on a shelf, watching it as he bathed. After he came out, he was still drowsy. The floor was a bit slippery, and he fell. As he fell, he subconsciously clutched my urn tightly and fell backward. After getting up, he saw that my urn was undamaged and smiled in relief. "Seriously, if you really wanted to protect my ashes, doesn't the house have a safe?" Ethan carried my urn downstairs, had breakfast, and then went to the living room. He gently placed the urn on the chaise lounge where I used to sit, as if he wanted me to supervise him. The butler brought him a list of funeral items and personnel. His spirits lifted, and he began to prepare everything with great care and seriousness. This was the first time he had been so attentive to my affairs. I felt a warmth in my heart, but then I remembered the saying, "respect for the dead," and felt it was only right. My funeral was held on a bright, sunny day. If Ethan had wanted, he could have invited half of a city's business elite. The funeral could have been grand, even a city-wide memorial. But he seemed to know I liked peace and quiet, so he only invited close friends and family. My best friend, Scarlet Rosewood, arrived early. Ivy also dutifully wore a black dress, accompanied by her group of girlfriends and rich heir friends. The rest were some high-level executives from the company and friends of our father's generation. Ethan personally officiated the funeral. After reading the eulogy, he looked down at the urn on the table, silent and solemn. Ivy walked over to him, her face sad, and comforted him. "It's for the best that Elener is gone. She won't suffer from unrequited love anymore, nor will she have to endure the pain of her illness. And you won't have to be controlled by her anymore. You're both free." Ivy seemed to be comforting Ethan, but she was actually trying to guide him toward her, just in a more subtle way. Scarlet looked at Ivy coldly and said without mercy, "The wife's funeral isn't even over, and the mistress is already openly planning her future with the man. When should we expect the wedding invitation?" Ivy was angry at being exposed, but she still put on a wronged expression. "You're talking nonsense. I was just comforting my brother. Can't you see how sad he is?" As she spoke, she moved closer to Scarlet, her eyes filled with apology. To those below, it looked like she was about to apologize to Scarlet. She whispered, "We're getting married soon. After we send you an invitation, you must come." Scarlet's eyes were bloodshot with rage. Ivy pleaded, "I'm sorry, Miss Rosewood. I know you're still upset that my brother didn't take good care of Elener. I share some of the blame. If only I had found out about her terminal illness sooner, but the dead can't be brought back. Elener left willingly. Please don't cause trouble at her funeral, or she won't be happy." Veins popped on Scarlet's forehead. Unable to bear it any longer, she grabbed Ivy's hair. "You bitch, if it weren't for you, Elener wouldn't be dead. Let go of me, Miss Rosewood. What did I do to make you so angry?" Ivy was on the verge of tears. "Two-faced hypocrite, stop pretending." Scarlet pulled Ivy's hair hard, losing all semblance of a high society lady, looking more like a madwoman. The people around them rushed to pull them apart, and the scene descended into chaos. Chapter 15, Brother Ethan, Save Me. Ivy cried out to Ethan for help. I also wanted to pull Scarlet away. Although Scarlet had the upper hand, she was clearly playing right into Ivy's hands. Both my reputation and hers would be affected, but my soul passed right through her body again, powerless. Enough, Ethan's cold shout silenced everyone present. Both Scarlet and Ivy were startled by the icy aura emanating from Ethan and let go of each other's hair. Just as Ivy was looking at Ethan with a pitiful expression, expecting him to defend her, Ethan rejected her. His face was calm as he said, "Ivy, you should go home now." Ivy was shocked. She quickly explained, "Brother, I didn't mean anything else just now. I just felt that this was a kind of release for both of you. I know you feel you've wronged Elener, but it's not all your fault you manage the Smith Group and deal with so much every day. It's only natural that you didn't have time to care for her." Ivy appeared very understanding, but Ethan's face was icy. "Go home now, be good." Ivy's expression was even more shocked than before. Clearly, she hadn't expected things to turn out this way. "Brother, I have some things to attend to at the company, so I'll leave first. My condolences." After Ivy left, Ethan and Scarlet didn't speak. Under their joint management, the funeral proceeded as planned. All my belongings had been donated to a mountainous region. The personal effects for the burial were borrowed from Scarlet by Ethan. Ethan looked at the grave decorated with flowers, at the clothes I had worn, the bags I had used, the lipstick I had applied, and once again recalled the moments we had shared over the past 4 years. When it came time for the burial, he reluctantly placed my urn in the grave, next to our wedding photo. His expression at that moment could only be described as a mix of complex emotions. "Elener, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." He clenched his fists, his eyes glistening. A single tear escaped from the corner of his eye, sparkling brightly in the sunlight. Perhaps he still remembered the rule I had set for him. "Ethan Smith, after we're married, you are not to have intimate contact with any woman, especially your adopted sister there, either after your money or your looks. Besides me, no one in this world truly loves you." He came home on time every day. And I discovered that he seemed to remember everything we had been through. We were together for 4 years, and we had 4 wedding anniversaries. The first year, after my repeated reminders, he perfunctorily gave me a skincare gift set he bought at the airport. The second year, after my nagging, he gave me a very expensive set of traditional gold jewelry. The third year, I deliberately didn't remind him. He was clever and had prepared a gift in advance, a priceless pigeon's egg diamond ring. The fourth year, I suddenly couldn't recall the details of our 4th anniversary. That's right. The 4th year, he didn't celebrate our anniversary with me, nor did he give me a gift. He must have been tired of it, too lazy to even humor me. That day, Ivy called and said she had been in a car accident. Ethan rushed off in a panic, completely forgetting about our anniversary. I saw him open his phone, go to my profile, and look at the photos of us I had posted. Every year on our anniversary, I would post a selfie of us together. He didn't know that I had posted one this year too. It was a picture of the divorce papers, but I had set it to private. He looked at the photos, one by one, as if it were yesterday, as if I were right there in the room, right in front of him. He sat on the sofa, a bottle of high-end red wine on the table. He was slightly drunk, his eyes hazy. Across from him, though the space was empty, there was a glass of wine. "My love, are you still angry?" He raised his glass to me, muttering to himself. Chapter 16. A few days later, at a business banquet, Ethan happened to run into Scarlet Rosewood. Ethan approached her and asked, "When did Elener find out she had cancer?" Scarlet snorted. "Elener is dead. What's the point of asking now?" "I want to know," Ethan insisted. Scarlet replied coldly, "We went shopping a week ago." After walking for a short while, she suddenly had a severe cramp in her lower body, and it was extremely painful. I felt something was wrong, so I took her to the hospital for a checkup the next day. The look on the doctor's face told us the illness was serious. She probably got the medical report the day before she took her own life. I asked the doctor. He said that with her physical condition, conservative treatment could have given her at least another year. If she went to the United States for the most advanced medical care, she could have lived for 3 to 5 years, maybe even 10. I was already helping her find a specialist, but I never thought she would just leave like that. "I see. Did she say anything to you? About me?" Ethan asked, his eyes red with grief. Scarlet was getting impatient. After the funeral, she had been prepared to never speak to Ethan again for the rest of her life. But seeing him like this, she couldn't help but feel a pang of pity and answered truthfully, "Yes, she did." She said that, relatively speaking, she didn't find death that desperate. What truly made her despair was that you didn't love her, not even a little bit. "Sounds pretty pathetic, doesn't it? I feel sorry for her myself," Scarlet said with a self-deprecating laugh and walked away. "I don't love her. Not even a little bit." Ethan muttered to himself, his face pale, overcome with grief. The tall, strong man of over 6 feet couldn't even stand steady. His breathing became ragged, and he leaned weakly against the wall. Ethan didn't know how he got back to the villa. The butler handed him a cell phone. It was my phone. It had been water damaged and wouldn't turn on, but it had just been repaired. Ethan knew my phone's password. He found many things on my phone. There were videos in the photo album and my diary and daily schedules in the Notes app. After looking through my photo album, he realized just how many candid photos and videos I had taken of him. After checking my shopping apps, he saw how many clothes I had picked out for him. And after reading my notes, he understood what I did for our home every day, how I managed such a large villa. He found a wish list where I had written my last wish. It was written the day before the accident. "I want to spend one last wedding anniversary with Ethan Smith. I want to know what he will give me this time." After reading it, Ethan's hand holding the phone trembled. His eyes filled with memories, and he was likely replaying all the events of that day in his mind. That night, he had come home after midnight. Scarlet said I received the digital medical report on our anniversary, and that same night, I gave him the divorce papers. I had said, "After I die, I won't love you again in the next life." He had replied, "If you want to die, no one's stopping you." Ethan's fists clenched, his face contorted in agony, his eyes filled with regret. My heart felt like a bottle of mixed spices had been overturned sour, sweet, bitter, spicy, salty. I didn't know what to feel, but I knew that a great weight had been lifted. Later, I was surprised to find that the distance I could travel had increased. Before, it was 10 meters from him, and an alarm would go off. Now, it was the distance from our home to his company. I finally understood why I couldn't leave Ethan. It wasn't someone else trapping me, it was myself. Chapter 17, Butler's epilogue. After the funeral, the master was like a different person. He traveled between the company and home every day, a straight line. Before, he could get to work on time, but he could never leave on time. Now, the moment work was over, he would rush home, turning down all social gatherings and dinners. Especially at lunch, the master started bringing his own food, specifically studying the madam's cooking. He, who had never cooked before, learned quite well. In the office, before Secretary Megan Walsh would report on her work, he would always ask, "Did Elener bother you at work today?" Megan would always answer no with trepidation. And Ethan would never get angry, always looking lost and bewildered. "Is Elener still mad at me? You're a woman, tell me, when will she stop being angry?" Megan would always reply, "That depends on how you appease her, Mr. Smith." At home, he was different again. At dinner, there was always an empty seat in front of him, and a meal for the madam was always set on the table. It was as if the madam were still alive. Late at night, he would often take 2 bottles of red wine upstairs. The madam used to drink red wine at night to soothe her sorrows. Now, his addiction to wine was even greater than hers had been. and he would often make intimate gestures to the air. Sometimes, our maids would see him when they went upstairs to deliver something and would stare curiously. At those times, he would always scold them. "What are you looking at? Is there anything to see? We're getting along better now also." The madam used to love planting roses in the garden. She said roses symbolized love, and one day, the master would fall in love with her, and these flowers would be a testament to their love. The garden is now full of roses, all planted by the master himself. He would even hold the hand of the heir and take it for a walk in the garden to admire the roses. Apart from these rather bewildering behaviors, the master was no different from before. He often gave us the feeling that the madam was still alive. He treated the madam better and better. Before, it was the madam who took care of him. Now, he took care of the madam. Under his management, the villa was in perfect order, and we returned to our previous carefree state where we didn't have to worry about anything. All these abnormal behaviors were a testament to his longing for the madam. Many people in a city knew about this. They all said the master had gone mad from missing the madam too much. When Ivy Thorne heard the news, she came to see Ethan immediately. Ethan was watering the roses in the garden. When he saw Ivy, he proudly showed them off to her. "Look how beautiful these roses are. Your sister-in-law said they symbolize our love." He looked to the side with a doting expression, as if the madam were really there. Ivy looked at Ethan in disbelief. "Elener is dead. Even if you take care of these roses perfectly, there can be no more love between you. Can you stop deceiving yourself?" Ethan looked at the madam and muttered to himself, "Elener, you're right here. Why is she saying you're dead?" A look of contempt flashed in Ivy's eyes, but she quickly put on a smile. "I must have been mistaken. Isn't Elener right here?" "Well, brother Ethan, I'm here on business this time." Ivy wanted to dismiss several high-level executives and gave her reasons. After listening, Ethan refused. "Your sister-in-law said that except for Vice President Liu, the other executives have made great contributions to our Smith Group. They cannot be dismissed." Ivy pouted. Ethan was firm. Ivy's face changed. She looked at the madam next to Ethan, her emotions running high. "When did Elener say that? She's clearly dead, brother. Why do you have to deceive yourself?" Chapter 18. Ethan was angry. His face darkened. "Ivy, I see you as a sister. I don't have romantic feelings for you." Ivy cried, "Brother, I like you, and Elener is dead." Ethan's face became exceptionally cold. "You should leave. And come here less often in the future." Ivy was stunned. "What do you mean?" Ethan glanced at the madam and said dotingly, "Elener doesn't like you. Don't hang around in front of her when she's here." Ivy glared at Ethan and left in a huff. After she left, the master looked at the madam beside him again, only to find she was gone. He searched all over the villa but couldn't find her. The master muttered to himself, "Is she angry again? It seems I should never talk to my sister Ivy in front of her. She gets jealous." Just as he was thinking this, he saw one of the maids hiding behind a rockery, talking on the phone. "Miss, it has nothing to do with me. I'm telling the truth, he's gone mad." The maid felt a cold gaze on her back and shivered. She turned around. "Sir, what are you doing here?" Ethan's eyes were as cold as daggers, and a chilling aura emanated from him. The maid was terrified, her body trembling. She didn't even have the courage to lie and confessed immediately. "Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to betray you. It was the young miss. She threatened my family and forced me to watch your every move. She made me report to her every day." Ethan frowned. "How long has this been going on?" "Since the day she came back from abroad. It's been almost half a year." The maid confessed everything she had done. What angered the master the most was that, on his and the madam's wedding anniversary, the maid was supposed to place a photo of him and Ivy acting intimately in the madam's room. The maid was too scared to do it, but Ivy still sent the photo to the madam. The master flew into a rage I had never seen before, his face covered in a layer of icy frost. He called Ivy and demanded to know why she had done it. Ivy was silent for a long time, then said coldly, "I didn't want to make things so ugly. After all, your Smith family raised me, and I've called you brother for so many years. Since you already know, I won't pretend anymore. I want to be the president of the Smith Group." "Are you kidding me?" Ethan asked in astonishment. Ivy said disdainfully, "I abandoned my original family, lived under someone else's roof, and endured humiliation for so many years, all for the position of president of the Smith Group. Do you think I'm kidding? A flash of anger crossed Ethan's eyes. It seems what Scarlet Rosewood said before was all true. You found out too late. I'll give you a chance to step down gracefully. I might even consider keeping you by my side as a pet for my amusement. Otherwise, I'll make you lose everything and get out of the Smith Group. Ivy reached out and touched Ethan's face, looking at him as if he were a plaything. Ethan slapped her hand away. What right do you have to talk to me like that? Ivy didn't want to waste any more time with Ethan. You'll find out tomorrow if I have the right. After hanging up, Ethan still hadn't realized the crisis the company was in. Not long after, a call came in. It was his secretary, Megan Walsh. Mr. Smith, it's bad. This quarter, our company failed to meet the targets of the VAM agreement with the investors. You have to transfer 35% of your shares to Mr. Lawrence. Ethan's eyes widened. What? Megan continued. Miss Thorne has been forming alliances recently. I've heard rumors in the company that she's planning to force you out. Mr. Lawrence's shares have been bought by her. And you signed several contracts last month, so a lot of the Smith Group's assets are now under Miss Thorne's name. Chapter 19. Ethan's lips twitched. After a moment of panic, he calmly asked, Does Vice President Zhang know? Vice President Zhang was the most respected veteran in the company, having co-founded the Smith Group with our old master. Megan replied, Vice President Zhang was in a car accident this morning. He's still in the ICU. Ethan was stunned. What? How could it be such a coincidence? What about the other senior executives? What are their attitudes? Megan sighed. Mr. Smith, with all due respect, after Mrs. Smith passed away, you handed over a lot of power to Miss Thorne. The outside world is saying you've gone mad with grief over Elener. The senior executive's loyalty is no longer with you. They will definitely support Miss Thorne. After hanging up, Ethan was consumed by deep self-blame. That woman has been in our family for so many years. How did I never see her ambition? Elener, you were right. I really misunderstood you. Am I really going to hand over the Smith Group to a woman like that? Ethan's face was pale, his condition terrible. He seemed to have aged more than 10 years in an instant. The next day, the company held a board meeting. At the meeting, one of the company's veterans, Vice President Wang, denounced Ethan, listing numerous mistakes he had made during his tenure as president and demanding his removal. The result of the vote was clear. More than 2/3 voted for his removal. Not all of them had been bought by Ivy. Some genuinely felt Ethan was unreliable. According to the removal procedure, a simple majority was all that was needed. After Ethan was removed, the appointment process began. Ivy's faction controlled over 70% of the company's shares, giving them absolute authority. The result was obvious, again with more than a majority. The veteran, Mr. Wang, happily announced Ivy's appointment as the new president. The faces of Ethan's loyalists were grim. Ethan himself remained calm, saying nothing, exuding an air of indifference to both honor and disgrace. Seeing Ethan still acting so high and mighty, Ivy was furious. She said contemptuously, Ethan Smith, you don't even have any company shares now. You're no different from having nothing. Ethan smiled. I should be the one saying that. Everyone laughed at his words. What kind of madness was Ethan spouting now? Ivy was now the chairman of the Smith Group. How could she have nothing? Ivy sneered. Ethan Smith, have you lost your mind because you can't accept me as president? I gave you a chance to leave with dignity, but you had to make things ugly. Who can you blame for that? Ethan looked at his watch. They'll be here soon. Ivy called for the security guards outside. You lot, there's a madman disrupting the board meeting. Get him out of here. Just as the guards were about to remove Ethan, several officers from the economic investigation team burst into the meeting room. The lead officer produced an arrest warrant, faced Ivy, and said coldly, Are you Ivy Thorne? We suspect you are involved in several cases of economic fraud. Please come with us. Ivy's face turned pale. All the directors and shareholders looked at Ivy in shock. Ivy shook her head frantically, telling everyone she had nothing to do with those cases. The officer handcuffed her. It's not up to you to decide whether you're involved or not. Ivy panicked completely, looking at Ethan in desperation. Ethan's expression was calm, his eyes as still as a deep well. It was clear he had known about this all along. He said faintly, I have evidence of you transferring my company's assets and pulling strings for other companies. Ivy looked at Ethan in disbelief. Impossible, how could you have evidence? I was so careful, Ethan retorted. So you're admitting it? Ivy covered her mouth, then became furious. Ethan Smith, you're despicable, you set me up. Ethan's eyes were cold. You set me up first. If it weren't for my wife, the one losing right now would be me. Cooperate with the investigation. The amount of money involved is so large, you'll probably be in prison for the rest of your life. Chapter 20, Ivy was taken away by the police. After discussion, the board reappointed and removed the president. With Ivy arrested, her supporters among the senior executives and shareholders lost their leader and couldn't cause any more trouble. Ethan continued as president and also stripped the supporting vice president Wang of his position. Ethan used this board meeting to regain control of the company, and he also reorganized the senior management, firing many people. Ivy's fate was grim. The amount of money involved was huge, and she was also implicated in several homicides. She would likely spend the rest of her life in prison. A month later, Ethan went to visit Ivy. They spoke through a soundproof glass partition, using phones. Ivy, in her prison uniform, looked at Ethan with hatred. "Are you here to mock me?" Her eyes were red, her face weary and haggard. Life in prison must have been hard, but her eyes still held a strong sense of determination. "I'm telling you, Ethan Smith, no matter how many times I could do it over, I wouldn't regret it. I was born into a humble family, not as lucky as you with parents worth trillions. I had to rely on myself, climbing up desperately. So what if my methods were despicable? I wanted a better life, I wanted to stand at the top of society. Is that wrong? I went to school abroad, I had physical needs, I dated a few foreign boyfriends. What's wrong with that? Shouldn't a person live to make themselves happy?" Ethan's face was grim. "What you've become is also partly my fault." After that, Ethan never visited Ivy in prison again, only instructing me, the butler, to visit her every few months. I knew that although Ethan hated Ivy, a part of him still saw her as a sister. Ivy had transferred too many assets, and the company was facing serious losses, needing a large investment. A woman claiming to be the madam's secretary found Ethan. In just 5 minutes, she signed a $500 million investment contract with the master. After signing, the master showed no happiness or relief. Instead, his expression became more solemn, his heart heavier. Only later did I understand. The madam had long foreseen this day and had left a backup plan for the master. The evidence of Ivy's asset transfers and other crimes had been prepared by the madam in advance. The madam was a hidden master, the president of the Phoenix Commerce Guild of A City, with a net worth of tens of billions, equivalent to 10 Smith groups. I never would have thought the madam had given up so much for the master. And the master never spoke of these things. He still tended to the roses in the garden every day, the symbols of their love, and talked to the madam every day. A year later, on the anniversary of Elener's death, Ethan brought a bouquet of roses to visit her. In this year, with the help of medication, he had finally come to accept the reality of Elener's passing. Ethan sat in front of the tombstone, holding the roses in one hand and scrolling through photos of him and Elener on his phone with the other. Unknowingly, a day passed. The next day, instead of driving back, Ethan drove directly to Swansong Lake on the outskirts of the city. Swansong Lake, the place where he and Elener had first met. Ethan slowly straightened his clothes, looked at the tall, handsome reflection in the lake, and smiled. Suddenly, his expression became firm, and he walked slowly into the lake. The water rose, bit by bit, covering his head, filling his nose and lungs. He closed his eyes, quietly waiting for death. After sinking to the bottom, an indescribable pain spread through his body, like ants burrowing into his heart, or like a small knife cutting away his flesh and bone piece by piece. He died. His soul was pulled from his body and rose to the surface of the water. He saw a blurry, abstract soul in the distance, secretly watching him. It was clearly a woman, lonely and pitiful. The female soul's eyes were red as she whispered, "Why? Isn't it good to be alive?" Ethan was stunned, but he recognized the female soul at first glance. A gambler's smile spread across his face. "Elener, I've missed you so much while you were gone." "I'm not," the female soul fled in the opposite direction, feeling she was a mess ugly. Ethan's soul chased after her. "Elener, don't run. I have something to say to you," Elener said coldly. "What is there to say? There's nothing to say. You said we should never see each other again in the next life. I don't want to ruin you again. Ethan shouted. Elener, I owe you. I want to repay you in the next life. Elener was resolute. No, you don't owe me anything. Ethan caught up to Elener and said shamelessly. Then you owe me. Elener snapped at him. We don't owe each other anything. Let me go. If we owed each other nothing, how could we ever meet again? Ethan held Elener's chin, his eyes full of infatuation and love, and gently placed a kiss on her forehead. Elener, stop being angry, okay? End of book.